everybody, welcome to Steelers Weekly presented by Geico. I am Missi Matthews. It is time now to get you ready for the Steelers' upcoming game.
You know, we're just not doing good enough. I could comb through it with a whole bunch of minutia, but the bottom line is popcorn. You know, if it was one identifiable thing, then you would pluck that one thing out and move on with your day. It's probably a myriad of some of the variables that you mentioned, and we just got to, not blink, and we got to continue to do what it is that we've done to produce quality play in that area in the past and get ready for our next opportunity to answer those questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to the Matchup Show presented by POWERHOME Solar. Steelers and Bills meeting once again for Sunday Night Football. And let's introduce you to our panel to break it all down. Bob Labriola of Steelers.com and Steelers Digest in the festive mood. Shout out Mary Ann. We also have former Steelers running back Merril Hoge on hand. Hi Merril. And former Steelers outside linebacker Arthur Moats is here as well, and I bet you guys can guess where we are going to start today about the Steelers. That, of course, is about the run game, maybe the lack thereof. As Coach Tomlin said after the loss to Washington, if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win. So, Labs, is this something the Steelers need to commit to run the ball or just improve situationally?
Well, I think improving situationally is the bare minimum. Because you can't afford to go into the playoffs with no running game at all, or with a running game like we've seen from the Steelers the previous couple of weeks. So improving it situationally to me is the bare minimum. And how you get there, though, that to me is the question. And because I'm not ready to say, okay, commit to the running game during games to the point where, maybe you're doing it even if you're not doing it that well. Because the object, not to go all Herm Edwards on everybody here, but the object is to win the game. The Steelers are not in the playoffs yet. They're still competing for seeding, the division title, some significant things. And so winning the game is most important. Hopefully along the way to doing that, they can improve the running game so that it at least can be successful situationally.
All right, Merril, in your opinion, is this fixable? And if so, how do they do it?
Yeah, everything's fixable in what they're doing wrong. First of all, the two key components to be successful running the football are controlling the line of scrimmage and winning at the point of attack. Like every run has a point of attack. So if you control the line of scrimmage, you win at the point of attack, the chances of being successful in the running game are pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to do that all the time, because clearly nobody has ever done that in the history of football. But if you do that a majority of the time, you can become a very good offensive team. So if you look at their problems, offensive line has struggled winning at the line of scrimmage. How come they've lost there? What's been their struggles? Well, oftentimes a lot of it's pad level. The way they come off the ball instead of really sinking their hips, bending their knees, and striking and moving. There's too many people standing up. If you've watched Washington last week, they all had great leverage. They're winning at the line of scrimmage. And then winning at the point of attack where the ball is going to head. Let's go to the 4th and 1. Coach Tomlin mentioned if you can't get 1 yard, probably don't deserve to win. A pure mental error by Eric Ebron. Now, Eric Ebron has to cut off Chase Young. That's all he's got to do. It's his responsibility to stop just before Chase Young and cut him off. And he goes way past him in the motion. Okay, what I'm getting at, all those things are correctable. Okay, now you can correct them, and then if you apply them, this is where I get the theory. A coach has all the power but no control. Because I can tell you this, in that 4th and 1 situation, Eric Ebron was told in practice, it's your responsibility in motion to slow down and just cut off Chase Young. Well, when you get beyond Chase Young and you let him have a free run to the running back when they had one at the point of attack, you got no shot to win that. So offensive line, yes, they can clearly get better in how they come off the ball as a group. Your perimeter players from fullback to tight ends to wide receivers all can do a much better job in how they're going about making sure their assignment's right and getting people blocked or getting people accounted for. And then the runners really have contributed to some of this inconsistency. When you look at some of their runs, the runner's responsibility is I got to time things right, and I have to have a pacing, and I have to have a distance when we have people pulling. I can't be ahead of my blockers, because what does that do? That doesn't help you if you get ahead of your blockers. You got to be behind your blockers and give timing. And at times, runners have struggled with that. So all of those things can be worked on and made a much better going forward. And the Buffalo Bills have struggled defending teams that have run the ball. They have not been a very good run defense. It's a team that you could get going on, but you better correct all of those things or you'll struggle just like you have the last 4 weeks.
Arthur, that's where I was going to kind of go with you next in terms of the Bills' run defense. Is this a game you see the Steelers? I feel like we've said this every time that we've talked about their run game needing to improve. Well, this defense, this could get them started. Where do you go with this team?
Yeah, so I know the Bills have been very inconsistent in terms of stopping the run, but I feel like that situation has been more related to the injuries that they've had at various points of the season. They're starting to get back healthy at their inside linebacker spot with Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, but throughout the year, man, those guys being out, that definitely hurt them. Now, when we're talking about running the ball on that Bills defense, it goes back to what both Bob and Merril were talking about in terms of the technique and fundamentals, in terms of your pad level, in terms of having the patience as a runner. That's not going to be an easy challenge against this Bills front. Ed Oliver has been playing extremely well this year. He's a young guy, high pedigree guy as well. If you don't continue to do the base things right, though, the fundamental things right, this defense is going to create some big problems for them, especially as it pertains to the run game.
All right, we have to talk about the drops that we have seen the last 2 weeks by the Steelers pass catchers. And Labs, Coach Tomlin warned on Tuesday, if you can't catch the ball, we're not going to throw it to you. Do you anticipate any division of labor changes on Sunday night in Buffalo?
Well, I really think a lot of this falls on Ben in terms of because he decides who gets the ball. It's the NFL. It's not a college team where you have 90 guys in uniform. I mean, you might have 5 or 6 wide receivers in uniform on game day. And so if you're using 4 or 5 at a time, you can't really bench people. They have to be out there. But Ben is the guy who makes that decision. I mean, I remember the story that Bill Nunn told me about a long time ago in the 60s. He went up to Bobby Lane, who was the Steelers quarterback at the time, and said, "What makes a good wide receiver?" And Bobby Lane said, "He's a good wide receiver because I throw him the football."
Welcome back, everyone. Steelers Weekly presented by Geico continues.
He's good at what he does. He's a big guy. He reminds me a lot of Ben when he was young. In terms of running the football. Sometimes he runs to escape. Sometimes he's got some called plays for him in terms of draws, quarterback draws and stuff like that. Sometimes he runs sweeps. So we have to be ready for him doing that all the time. He is an effective runner for him.
All right, that was defensive coordinator Keith Butler talking about Josh Allen. And let's compare, since everybody keeps referring to him as Ben Roethlisberger. These are the 2020 numbers in terms of what Big Ben has done, and Josh Allen compared it to 33 qualified quarterbacks thanks to NFL research for our stats throughout the show today. So Arthur, another thing that they provided with us, Next Gen Stats, is how much Josh Allen does not like to be under pressure and how ineffective he is. So what does the Steelers defense need to do to attack him?
Yeah, so when you talk about getting pressure on Josh Allen, that is typically the case with a lot of quarterbacks, not just necessarily blitzing, because it's a difference between blitzing a quarterback and getting pressure on him. If you're able to get pressure on Josh with your front four, like the Steelers have been able to do consistently, without a doubt, you're going to rattle him. But the problem is this. He does a great job of extending the play. He does a great job of making the first guy miss. And then he puts a lot of strain and pressure on your secondary. So you have to, it's that fine line you have to walk between coming after him, but making sure that you don't allow him to extend those plays. Very similar to Ben Roethlisberger from that standpoint in terms of, if you can keep Ben in the pocket and you're hitting him, it's going to go well for you. But once Ben is able to make that first guy miss, now he's able to really break your back with some of these throws downfield. So when you're watching Josh, that's the same type of concept. You want to hit him, but you want to make sure he does not get out that pocket and make guys miss, because then he's going to be lethal.
Labs, in your opinion, is Josh Allen the best quarterback the Steelers have faced so far?
Well, I will say this for sure. He is the best quarterback out of that draft class. That included Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. To me, Josh Allen is by far the best of all of that group. He is a guy who, he is more accomplished in the pocket than some of those other guys who were drafted in his class. And he also has, the mobility and strength, as Arthur was pointing out, to use his legs either to buy himself some more time to make plays down the field, or he can just make plays with his legs, tuck the ball, run. He can get what is necessary, to convert third downs, those kinds of things. So, Josh Allen is the kind of a guy where you need pressure on him, yes, but you have to. It has to be more like an anaconda kind of pressure, where you surround him and you just gradually squeeze the life out of him. You cannot let him, be running around out on the turf.
All right, the bad mental images I now have in my head. Merril, is this a matchup of Big Ben versus Josh Allen?
Well, when people say that, because they don't play each other, it's always hard to measure that. Now, if you're looking at those critical players making critical plays, well, almost every game comes down to something like that. So I say yes from that perspective, and then I'm like, but if really the success of both of these teams is really going to be what happens up front for them, how the Trent's plays, how their offensive line plays, and for the Steelers' second aspect of things, how well their backs play, especially against pressure, because they have struggled with that, and teams know that. So when they get on third down and they want to target that back with their pressures, they're going to keep getting challenged until those backs realize or show that they can defend and pick up blitzes. So when you say that, there's a lot of layers to that. Clearly, they're going to have to make plays, and the difference in the game could be who makes the play, the big play in the game to win it for them.
Quickly, Merril, what's something you've seen that you've liked from Josh Allen this season?
Well, he has the most powerful arm in all of football. It's not Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is just more acrobatic in how he can throw. When you think of just pure power and strength, it is Josh Allen. He can be flat-footed and hit it, throw a comeback at 22 yards on the rope. He is a dangerous guy from a mobility aspect. He is very athletic, and he can do some things. Arthur's already mentioned that. Lab has mentioned that. He is a very complete player. He's become more polished from the passing perspective than he was in Wyoming. Coming out, he was erratic deep down the field. He's not as much so there. It's still inconsistency of his, but he has developed in a much better fashion. I've watched him since he was in Wyoming for his career in Wyoming, and I'm impressed with how much better he has gotten each and every year from a pure passing perspective. But he is as complete as you're going to see. He's dangerous in every aspect of football and what a quarterback can do.
All right, guys, we're going to take our last break here on the Matchup Show presented by POWERHOME Solar. When we return, we'll get your keys to the game. Don't go anywhere. Steelers Weekly is presented by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car insurance. Hi everybody, welcome to Scouting presented by SiriusXM. I'm Missi Matthews, and you can subscribe to SiriusXM's Best Package All Access and get your first 6 months for just $50. Fees and taxes do apply. See offer details at SiriusXM/scouting. Joining me now, former Steelers quarterback Bruce Gradkowski. Bruce, the Steelers did not have a chance to remain perfect, falling to the Washington football team. A lot of onus is being placed on lack of run game and the drops. What are you seeing in terms of issues with the Steelers offense?
Well, Missy, it's hard to stay perfect. And the Steelers have done a great job thus far. And look, Washington's finally coming into their own. They're a good football team. Now Alex Smith is at the helm. He's comfortable being back. So that was a tough game. But I think offensively, the Steelers have replaced the running game with all the quick passing. And that's why for us, with our PFF data, they're 28th in yards per attempt, and they're 28th in explosive play percentage. So in those two areas, they have to find ways to make more explosive plays downfield. And when they do get a chance, they have to connect on it, whether a drop or missed throw or things of that sort. So they're not far off. Missy, this point in the year, no one's going to be perfect. And for what the Steelers have accomplished so far is pretty special. But I know that's not their mindset, and it's trying to get back to trying to get a Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, most teams would be happy to be 11-1 at this point, but going back to the run game and maybe not necessarily having a 100-yard rusher every week, but situationally, that seemed to be what was really making Coach Tomlin upset, saying if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win, especially at that goal line. So how do the Steelers fix that, knowing you're going to have to rely on that, through these last few games?
It's tough. You have Marquise Pouncey that's hopefully finally going to come back, so you've been missing him. And when you have, some change on the offensive line, that's always tough, especially your leader that makes the calls up front, your center in Pounce. So can they find a way? And it's not the yards per game and all that, but it's being able to run when you want to and put your staple on things and being physical. The Steelers at the 1 yard line, it should be 100% that they're going to score in that position. So, look, and the coaches have to help as well. I think the players, it comes down to everyone being on the same page and finding a way just to improve week in and week out. You get to this point in the season, you always have to look at what you've been doing, what your tendencies are, how you could continue to try to get better and improve on. The Steelers aren't far off, so it's no reason to panic. I think they'll be just fine.
All right, a good way to get that bad taste out of their mouth is going to Buffalo, a Sunday night football game, and the Bills have really looked like they are clicking well heading into this last portion of the regular season. What is making them so effective right now?
Well, I think Josh Allen. When Josh Allen is playing well, this team rolls. And I think Brian Daboll, offense coordinator, does a really good job with the play action pass. The Bills are one of the top teams that use play action pass the most. And that's something the Steelers linebackers have to be prepared for. The defense has to be ready for. But you can also force Josh Allen into turnover-worthy plays. He's going to throw you a few. In the way the Steelers defense are, they're able to get interceptions. They're able to get turnovers. This week, I think they'll have a great opportunity to do that. And Missy, don't hold it against me. I actually forgot, and I wore Bills colors today.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did, that's okay. Hopefully that's good luck in terms of turning the tide, Bruce. Thanks as always for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Missy. Have a good weekend.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time now for our keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store. All right, Arthur, we will let you go first on this one. Hopefully you're not working both sides of this matchup. The Steelers and the Bills. I've been thinking about that. So give us your key to Sunday night for the Steelers to win.
Come on now, don't even put that out there for Steeler Nation, okay? I've already been blown up enough about this. Where are you at on the side of the fence this week? Don't put me in that position, all right? I got my Steelers shirt on. We're on Steelers right here. That's all that matters, all right?
We like it.
But for me, I think the biggest key for especially the defense, man, is Minka Fitzpatrick taking advantage of Josh Allen when he does make a mistake. As much as he's improved throughout his career, which is very rare in terms of seeing a quarterback come in and grow from an accuracy standpoint, he has done a great job of that, but he still has the tendency of playing too much hero ball, trying to do too much instead of throwing the ball away. He feels like because of his arm being so strong that he can fit it into some of these tight windows. We know how great Minka Fitzpatrick has been at capitalizing on those type of situations, breaking on the ball, and ultimately making those back-breaking turnovers that we love and have grown accustomed to from Minka. I feel like that's going to be a big-time key in this game. When Josh is scrambling, when Josh is trying to do a little bit too much, Minka has to come up with one of those timely plays to really flip it back in our favor.
Minka magic, I think, is what we have been calling it.
Yes,
okay, Merril,
indeed.
give us your key to this game.
Well, I've alluded to it already, and it's the area that, quite honestly, it's not just the key to this game, but it could be the key to them winning a Super Bowl, is really the offensive line and the perimeter players, those tight ends and the fullback that gets included in this. And not just how they can establish a line of scrimmage and be able to run the football when they need to and on a consistent basis, but the perimeter players are a critical part of that. If those guys, and sometimes it's just about knowing your assignment, that's really what's happened. People have messed their assignments up and haven't been where they're supposed to be, and really there's no excuse for that. But how you change your technique and going back to those things that help you become a successful player on each down and working on those, fine-tuning those right now so that you can not only win this game, but set yourself up to win a Super Bowl, I think is vital in this game. If those guys play in that area, terrific football, then they will beat the Bills for that. And they have a good chance of winning number 7 if they continue to grow and develop there. Okay,
Labs, give us your key.
The stars have to be stars, or as Mike Tomlin has said, the A players have to play A. And, by that I mean, the Steelers have had a little bit of a talent drain here lately. They lost Devin Bush earlier. They lost Bud Dupree recently. Last week against Washington, there was no Chris Boswell. At one point, they were without Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, no Marquise Pouncey, no James Conner. Okay, we're still kind of in flux as to which of those guys are going to be back. We do know for sure that Devin Bush and Bud Dupree are done for the season. But there are still guys on that roster, still guys on both offense, defense, who are Pro Bowl players, who are all pro players. And the Steelers need those guys to play to their pedigree. We talked about Minka Fitzpatrick, T.J. Watt's another one, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Ben Roethlisberger. These guys have to play to their level of talent. And if they do, then, I'm with the other guys. I do believe the Steelers can win this game.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining me here today on the Matchup Show. I really appreciate it. That's going to do it for us. We'll see everybody back here next week. Have a great night.